How's everyone doing? We are 9 and 4 and more, where we talk Jags football and other news around the NFL. And now we are here to bring you the AFC South, given our grades for each team in free agency. And I said, let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start things off with the Houston Texans. Houston Texans didn't do too much. They did actually have a lot of former Jags players on here. They had Cedric Ubehi, who actually used to be a first-round pick for the Bengals. AJ Ken, who obviously was our right guard for the past few years. I would say he's average at best. Nothing spectacular about him, but 2 years, $10.5 million, nothing special. Darius, 2 years, $3 million, and obviously Chris Conley, who they had last year, in 1 year, $2 million. So a lot of former Jags. Is it like the Houston Jags? Possibly, I don't know. But I think one signing I really do like about the Texans is Malik Collins, re-signing him to 2 years, $17 million. Very underrated defensive tackle. I don't think he gets talked about enough in the NFL. I really like that. And also another one was Desmond King, 2 years, $7 million for another. I would say he's probably their third corner, a pretty good slot guy and really good at special teams. So overall, I would give the Texans probably a C plus. They just signed a bunch of guys, kind of how they did last year. No one spectacular besides the Malik Collins, but overall, I would say C plus.
Yeah, I'm not going to be as gracious. I think this team was one of the worst teams in the league last year, and they did absolutely nothing to change my mind that they're going to be right there again. They just keep doing the same thing. They keep just signing quality veteran guys, which is fine, but there's no players on this team outside of Brandon Cooks. There's no one on, and maybe Laramie Tunsil. Outside of those two players, I'm not really hyped about any of them. If I'm a Texans fan, no one moves the needle. No one's like, oh, there's probably 2 extra wins that you didn't have last year. It's going to look exactly the same team as it was last year. And I mean, Davis Mills, give him credit. No one had him being one of the top quarterback rookies coming out of last year. And he was right there with everyone. He played really well for what he was given. And to me, they just didn't really do much for him in this draft, in this free agency period. Just no one on this list is really screaming out to me. Their secondary might be pretty good. I like the Terrence Brooks, MJ Stewart, Desmond King. I like their linebackers. They're all quality guys. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this team is pretty good, but they're compared to the rest of the moves I've been making around the league, these guys should have been, the second wave of free agency, not in the first wave of free agency. And for that, since they're not going to help their team at all, probably a C minus. Their biggest thing was trading Deshaun Watson. That is the only thing that finally happened for them. But you're getting rid of a guy who wasn't even playing for you. You're going to get some picks, but you still got to turn those picks. But this video is about free agency and the players you're adding to the team, and they didn't add anybody from that trade, just going to get drafted. Talk about that probably in the draft video. But for this, and they're great, I got to give it a C minus.
I agree 100%.
All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is the Indianapolis Colts. Probably their biggest move was getting Yannick Ngakoue. Getting Yannick with Gus Bradley again. Everywhere Gus Bradley goes, Yannick Ngakoue follows. That's pretty much how this is going. In that they also gave away Rock Ya-Sin, who was actually a good quality corner. I guess they felt like they needed an edge over corner, and not necessarily disagree. Kwity Paye is their best edge rusher right now, and he was a rookie last year, and I think he only recorded a sack in that last game against the Jags, if I'm not mistaken. So he still has a lot of work to do. Yannick will definitely get more than 1 sack a year there, cause a couple of forced fumbles. Be interesting to see him in Jacksonville and see what the fan reaction is going to be. Probably not very great if he gets a sack, especially if it's on Cam Robinson or Jawan Taylor if Jawan Taylor is playing. Other than that, just just a few signings. And that's probably the biggest issue I think a lot of Colts fans have is they got the most money and they're not spending it. So it's curious what they're waiting on. And because of that, I like the Yannick deal. But since they're not adding anybody, we still don't even know who their quarterback's going to be. Just for that reason alone, I got to give it just a C because I think this is incomplete. I feel like they need to add someone. If they get Jimmy G, Baker Mayfield, maybe a little bit better, but is this team really going to be better with those two? With Carson Wentz, we'll end up seeing, and because of that, I think just got to give it a C.
No, I'm going to give them a C plus until I figure out what their quarterback, who's the quarterback's going to be. It's the biggest question mark for the Colts, and I think a lot of Colts fans that they need to figure out who their quarterback is going to be. They have the players around the whole roster pretty much to be a playoff contention. You know, they have the offense line, the running game. Mo Alley Cox with the re-sign 3 years, 18 million. I don't think it's nothing spectacular. For $6 million a year, I don't think he's a terrible tight end. I just think he's an average player. But Yannick Ngakoue, that's how I'm going to give them a C plus. I probably would have given them just a D plus for not doing too much, but Yannick's a fabulous player, phenomenal player in this league. The least amount of sacks he's ever had so far is 8 sacks. I think he has 50 to 60 sacks already in his career. He's already been on 5 teams. He can never stay on a team for more than a year unless you're the Jags. But I think they got just for the straight up trade, I think the Colts won the trade, in my opinion. Yannick, once again, I talk about following Gus Bradley. He excels very well in a Gus Bradley type of defense, a 4-3, coming off the edge, you know, whether he's going against the left tackle, right tackle. He's someone that is also a forced fumble machine and already a Colts defense that I believe led the league in takeaways last year. You're getting a guy right here that can create turnovers. So really like the move for the Colts. Hopefully he doesn't do good when he plays us, but, you know, I'm one of those guys that's I don't have a lot of, you know, will ill towards just because I wanted to keep him. Unfortunately, he should have took the deal the Jags did, give him that $20 million a year deal a few years ago. But hey, he gets to see the Jags now twice a year. But so I'll give them a C plus.
Yeah, I can totally see it. It's just the biggest question is quarterback, and that's the biggest position. The fact not addressing it, but we'll see. We'll see what they get. All right, next we're going to move on to our hometown, Jacksonville Jaguars, and probably there's a lot of big signings here. That's probably the biggest thing about this Jaguars free agency class is that we spent money, a lot of Shad's money to be really about it. A lot of guaranteed, a lot of roster bonuses, but to me the biggest name is Brandon Sheriff. 5-time Pro Bowler, probably the most decorated offensive lineman that will be on this team since Tony Baselli. And so that's saying a lot. When this guy is on the field, and that's the biggest if about him is his injury history. They're like Washington, I saw it today. When he was on the field, they won every game. When he was off the field, they lost every game pretty much. So he plays a big role in how well your team's going to perform. So if he can stay healthy, might be one of the biggest improvements on this Jaguars offensive line to help Trevor Lawrence. The second name on the list is probably Christian Kirk. We paid him pretty good money. I think the deal was kind of overblown by other teams and other people on Twitter and stuff saying, how can you pay him like DeAndre Hopkins money? And it's really not. He's going to be, especially after all these contracts are going through, and especially next year's contract, there's a lot of big names and wide receiver that are going to get paid next year. We're talking he's not even going to be a top 15 wide receiver for his whole contract and everything like that. So if he lives up to the 84 million, then we hit gold. So that's the whole thing with him is potential. And then I also really like the linebacker signing with Foye Okulakun. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It's probably going to take us a while for him and Foye to get their names right. But man, this guy is just an absolute beast at linebacker. He is quick. He is fast. He is smart. That's probably the biggest thing out of Yale. He wasn't invited to the combine because of that, but he was still drafted in the 6th round. And once Deion Jones went out for the Falcons, he just took over. Where's the green dot? And he's going to be Miles Jack replacement pretty much. And we'll see what happens, but I think those 3 right there are probably going to have the biggest impact day one. And because of that, I actually going to give this probably a B plus. I would like to give it an A, but no edge to be in sight here. And I don't know the whole Cam Robinson being tagged situation. We'll see how that goes. If Cam signs it, if we extend him. So there's still a lot of things up in the air, but overall, Balky went for it. Doug went for it. Shot spent some money, and for that, reward them with a B plus grade.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them B plus as well. Brandon Scherf, my favorite signing out of here as well. You did talk about Foye Oluokun. Love him at linebacker. He's obviously led the league in tackles, 192 tackles last year, so he does a very good job of finding of who has the football, which is something the Jags definitely struggle with. Darius Williams, who was the second corner for the Rams, he can play outside, inside. 3 years, $30 million. He's a hometown kid from Jacksonville. Had other offers at other teams, but did decide to come home. I'm excited for him. Now we're gonna have Williams, Griffin, and Tyson Campbell. I think you have a good solid 3 there.
Yeah.
Tyler Shatley, 2 years, $6 million, 6.8 to be exact. And there is a chance now he is going to be our starting center because there is rumors floating around that Brandon Linder is going to retire in the up and coming week. So if he does, Tyler Shatley, I assume, will become the starter. I don't think they would draft a starting center within the first 3 rounds because Tyler Shatley, when he did play, is actually, I would say, an average center, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think he does anything, wrong. He doesn't do anything, that's going to stand out, in a good way. I just think he's an average center. So for your deal, 2 years, $6.8 million for your potential starter this year. Potential because we don't know for sure. And then the Christian Kirk, obviously 4 years, $72 million. I think a lot of people are blown out of proportion. $37 million guaranteed. Most of it is it's only like a 2-year deal.
It's a 2-year deal.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
And then I really like what he said in his media press conference the other day. The Jags took a chance on him. The Jags were willing to pay him this amount. So now it's his duty to go out there and fulfill this contract and show that he is worth that. So I definitely like that. He understands that a lot of people think he got overpaid, but now he has to come out here and prove why he got overpaid. So I definitely like his attitude. One thing I like about all the players we signed, they all have good attitudes. They all want to be here. Now, I assume money does talk. So I'm not saying they're coming here just because they want to prove themselves, but they are all well-spoken. They're not, coming in here and just saying, they're the only team to offer me, the money. They're saying, they want to win. They obviously want to play for Doug Peterson. A lot of them brought up Doug Peterson as the main reason they did come here because obviously he's a Super Bowl winning head coach. He knows what it's like to get to the top of the mountain. So they obviously want to be part of that. And then the other underrated signing I would say is probably Evan Ingram, former first-round picks, been in a Pro Bowl. Unfortunately, he has a lot of drop issues, but Doug Peterson knows how to utilize his tight ends. And if Evan Ingram can get his drops in order, I think he has all the tools, athleticism to be a very good tight end in this league and another target for Trevor Lawrence. He has a speed. He can actually technically be a slot receiver if you really think about it. A lot of teams actually thought about getting him to play slot. So it's going to be interesting to how Doug Peterson utilizes him. And I know you talked about Cam Robinson, if he's going to sign it. Personally, I hope he doesn't sign it. I know I'm not the biggest Cam Robinson fan. I don't like we tagged him, but since he is probably going to be our starting left tackle, I prefer if we extend him to the long-term deal just because it's going to lower his cap space and give us more cap money. So ideally, I would like to sign to a 4 or 5 year deal that's going to lower that $16 million.
Yeah, and then going with that, that's probably my biggest thing against Balky in this class is we signed everyone, gave them all the money. Yeah, we did great. But man, we're not creating any money on our cap space. Like we're not restructuring anyone. Like there's a couple of candidates we could easily restructure. I would personally like to do that with Brandon Linder. I would like to actually extend Brandon Linder if he wants to. That's up to him if he wants to continue playing football. But he can't do it on a $9-10 million, non-guaranteed contract. That's just asking to get cut. Like, especially if you got to make room, that's a quick 10 million clear up and you got Tyler Shatley. So personally, I would like to extend both of those, but lower the cap on both of them. If we can get Cam Robinson, Ben Barch at the minimum, Linder, Sheriff, and my opinion, Walker Little, not Jawan Taylor, Balky. Walker Little's much better than Jawan Taylor. That's a good offensive line. That should be plenty for Trevor. And we still got to find the X receiver and edge. We're probably drafting Aiden Hutchinson to fill that, but apparently Balky and Doug and Jags aren't done yet. So we'll see what happens, but if we can get an X receiver, it could definitely raise the value of what I think the Jags did in free agency.
Nope, we'll both give them a B+. So I think they fulfilled a lot of needs. They spent money, which I think was actually a shock. We all thought with Balky in charge. We all, I think, still want him gone, but I think he surprised us, and I'm not going to constantly be, barking, let's fire Balky right now. If it happens, great. So, but overall, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still on the pretty much fire Balky on Twitter situation, just because.
But you did get rid of the clown. You did get rid of the clown because he did.
I got rid of it. I brought our logo back. I mean, he at least spent some money. We'll see what happens. But man, his Jawan Taylor comments, the whole. We signed our top 6 guys, and apparently Allen Robinson wasn't on that list, even though we could have had Allen Robinson for Evan Ingram, Zay Jones kind of money. So little things like that really bother me about Trent Baalke. So we'll see what happens. I don't think I'll ever be pro Trent Baalke unless we have multiple years in which we are in it for the AFC South and like actually competitive. but that's
Yeah, at
going to
that
take.
point, then he can just stay. It's whatever then.
Yeah, if we're out here making the Super Bowl every year, who cares? I don't even care if it's all Doug and Balky's not really doing anything. Fine, whatever, as long as it's working. But as of right now, it hasn't worked. So until it starts working, it's still going to be Team Fire Balky.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the last team of the AFC South. We got the Tennessee Titans. They've actually made a lot of good moves. I like what they did with re-signing Harold Landry as like their first priority. Harold Landry has like 27 and a half sacks in like the last 3 years. He is just an absolute beast off the edge and wrecks the Jaguars every single time. So it sucks that we're going to have to see him for 5 more years. That's 10 more games of Harold Landry that we got to do. And then probably the biggest news is they traded for Robert Woods for a 2023 6th-round pick. I get his contract is not good at all. He's going to have to get paid like $18 million for like 4 more years, 30 years old, coming off a major injury. But they needed that second receiver. Julio Jones was not the answer last year. So it is kind of surprising that they're kind of replacing Julio Jones kind of with the same kind of situation where a vet proven top receiver in the league, but coming off a major injury. They're just kind of repeating it, but it only cost them a 6th-round pick for next year's draft, not even this year's draft. So pretty low buy on that, and got some value probably to pair with AJ Brown, see if they can work with Derrick Henry healthy. And then also re-signing Ben Jones and Austin Hooper, be their tight end. So overall, I think the Titans made some solid moves. I think they're still one of the best teams in the AFC South and are probably still the favorites, mainly because of Derrick Henry and this defense. Their offensive line's still good. It's getting a little bit older. They got rid of Saffold, but overall, I think the Titans are still probably the number 1 favorites for the AFC South. So I got to give their offseason grade probably – it's tough. I'm between a B and a B plus. I think the Robert Woods probably makes it a B plus, where if you asked me a couple days ago, it's probably a B, but now they got a number 2. So I think a solid B plus for the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I'm actually giving them B plus as well, just because of Robert Woods. Great value, 6th-round pick. Unfortunately, he is coming off the injury, and he is older, like you talked about, but he is, I think, a very good number 2 when healthy. And pairing him with AJ Brown is going to be a very good combo. I know they're probably going to be looking at maybe another wide receiver in the draft for the future, maybe in the 2nd or 3rd round. We'll see what they do there. Austin Hooper, 1 year, $6 million. They need another tight end, so they got their starting tight end. Brought Jeff Swain back. Obviously, he used to be a Jaguar as well. I really like Ben Jones. He's, I think, a very underrated center. Only $7 million a year. Good deal for him. Harold Landry, though, I love this signing. 5 years, $87 million. One of the better pass rushers in the league. And he's a pretty decent at covering as well. So overall, I think they did a very good job. And as well as Buster Skrine, who apparently, when I was reading on Twitter with some Titans fans, what they were talking about, he actually did very well at the end of the season. So they bring back another corner that's a position that they definitely need as well. But I think a B plus is very good for the Titans. Obviously, should be the favorite for the AFC South. Their offense is probably still going to be, good with Derrick Henry and AJ Brown. Defense was definitely one of the better teams last year defensively. I don't think it's talked about enough. I mean, they had a lot of turnovers, a lot of defensive touchdowns. So overall, I think the Titans got slightly better. They're probably going to win the AFC South if I had to put money on it. But B plus, Jags B plus. I think those two probably won the AFC South in free agency.
Yeah, 100%. That kind of leans to the fact of I do think the Jags and Titans control this division moving forward. Colts got a very good defense. But they got no answer at quarterback. At least the Titans have an answer at running back. They got an answer at other positions too. At wide receiver, we aren't even sure about the Colts with their wide. I mean, they got Michael Pittman, but that's about it. And I would much take AJ Brown over Michael Pittman. Solid player, but AJ Brown's better. And you got the Texans, who I have no idea what the Texans are doing. So in my opinion, grades kind of reflect the future of what's going to happen in this division. And I think it's going to come down to the Jags and Titans for the next 5 years of who's really going to control this division.
And as of right now, I would say Jags have the best quarterback. It's obviously going to see how is he going to take Trevor Lawrence, going to take the next step. But I'm not going to bet on the Jags to do anything like to win a division until they show me they can win the division. Until then, obviously going to pick the Titans. But other than that, though, thanks for watching. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at 9 and 4 and more, and go Jags.
Go Jags.